Hi, it's Katya. So we know that we live in a world where at least in a lot of the world, perhaps too much of the world, there's an overconsumption problem. We know that wealth distribution is in a crisis state, essentially, and we know that our resources and our relationship to our resources needs a lot of reevaluation. And so what do we do on a individual level? Um, what do we do in our own lives to start moving the needle on these issues? Well, I've been doing some of my own research, and one of the things that I've found is that an excellent medicine for the drive to consume that feels addictive or beyond just our needs, uh, understandable needs for food, clothing, shelter. But what makes us want to consume too much? What makes us confuse pleasure and the dopamine hit that comes with consumption? What makes us confuse that with happiness or contentment? Um, and I believe that at least one factor, which is worth considering, is the factor of what I believe to be a human need to create and to experience ourselves as creative beings, manifesting our creative potential in this world. So, you know, one thing that I've heard people say is that they don't feel creative, that there are some people in this world that are artistic and creative, and maybe they're the ones that are more right brain dominant or something, and that there are people in this world that are not. And I just find that to be a great misunderstanding. And I think that there's a lot of progress that we can make in our dialogue around this. So I truly believe that everyone is creative, and that it might take a little bit of exploring to find the pathway that really connects a person to their own creativity. And for that, we also need to expand our definition of creativity. So no longer we're just talking about, oil painting and sculpture and things that we would see in an art museum traditionally, but we also need to expand that to music, obviously, but also things like coding and um, you know carpentry and making tools and cooking and really the wide variety of, in this case, what I'm talking about when I say creativity is the experience and the process of making something out of nothing or out of ingredients and creating something that becomes the sum greater than, or the whole greater than the sum of its parts. I truly wonder sometimes if the creative act, the creative process, isn't one of the most fulfilling ways of experiencing ourselves on this planet. It's empowering, and in its empowerment potential, it provides a potential answer, or at least partial cure, to so much of the low self-esteem and self-doubt, low self-worth that we see, especially in our teenagers and children today. But of course, that echoes into adulthood and I would venture to guess is very much related to some of the issues in functioning that we see in the growing population of our adults today. So I think art and creativity are tremendously important in helping us to level out some of the imbalance around consumerism right now. Because when we are without that experience of feeling our own potential to be creative, to create something that wasn't there before, to find solutions to difficult and complex problems through our own innovative capacities and creative capacities, that when we don't experience that, we're out there looking for something. We're out there looking for something to fulfill us. In my experience, when we start to create more, we start to tip the scale the other way a little bit. And we don't need so much from the outside. Of course, our basic needs remain, at least insofar as my experience goes. But the drive to overconsume really isn't there anymore. There's not a reason for it. So what is the doorway for those of us who have not, who have maybe been afraid to even tap into that creative side, or no one's encouraging us? Well, one vehicle, one aid that I found really helpful is a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I'm sure a lot of you know it. It's a 9-week course that you take yourself through. So if you're self-motivated, then that can be a really, really amazing start to awaken those energies inside of yourself. And if not, then any kind of class that appeals to you, if you're someone that would work better in a group situation, I just encourage you to try your hand at something that you haven't tried before, because one of the greatest enemies of creativity is competition, and the idea that art has to look a certain way or has to meet a certain standard. That's not about creativity. That's perhaps about technique, about perfection. There's nothing wrong with these things, but when we're talking about the therapeutic effect of creativity and the effect that I'm talking about, which is the empowering, the confidence building effects, we don't need to actually measure the end result against anything. It's actually the process of creating itself that gives us the rewards and creates that feeling of self-containment, really. So a class, this book, if you have kids, I highly encourage making sure that they're engaging in creativity in some way. It's so sad to me that schools have cut art and music and other art-related programs from the budget. So it's up to us now. It's up to us to really start cultivating this area of our potential. And let me know about the results that you find. I am sure they'll be interesting and hopefully beautiful and enjoyable for you. And stay tuned, because on my show and on Katya.coach, I will be hosting several guests in a series of podcasts about the importance of art. And I will be talking with who I feel to be incredible artists. So please stay tuned and let me know through comments, through contact forms, however you get in touch with me and our community. And I will see you next time.